Hey, and welcome to Board with Life News for January 24th. Today I'm going to talk about Yellow and Yanked Z, Great Western Trail, Rails of the North, Mercado, Way of the Panda, and the Kickstarter for Countdown Action Edition. Let's get to it. Up first, Yellow and Yang Z was announced by Grail Games. This is designed by Rainer Knizia, one of the most famous board game designers, designer of over 500 games. Crazy guy. This is a sequel to Tigris and Euphrates, which is Knizia's highest rated board game that he's ever done. Came out years and years ago, so it's kind of exciting to see kind of a re-envisioned version of this. There are a couple of different ways that they listed that it differs from Tigris and Euphrates, the regular game. The biggest of which is that the board is comprised of hexes instead of squares. So that'll be a lot change kind of the tactics quite a bit, because it's a lot harder to break up different connected territories, obviously, because there's 6 sides instead of 4 sides. There's some other kind of minor differences and changes and stuff. This really seems like kind of a re-envisioning of the same game, which is good for a sequel, where he kind of went back to the original game and has done some tweaks that make it play a little bit differently. So if you're a big fan of Tigris and Euphrates, it'll probably feel somewhat the same, but have some new things to explore. So that's exciting. And I'm excited because my favorite board game artist, Vincent Dutrait, I never say his name right. You'd think I'd learn that by now, did the artwork for it, and it's gorgeous. Great Western Trail is getting its first expansion, Great Western Trail Rails to the North. This is designed by Alexander Pfister, who, if you follow this, you know Alexander Pfister is probably my favorite board game designer in the past couple years. He's just done great game after great game. I'm a huge fan of his work. There's a ton of stuff already going on in Great Western Trail, and it's already kind of at the edge of how heavy a game I play. It's like a mid-heavyweight Euro game. I really like the game a lot, but I can't imagine really adding another thing to it, so I hope this kind of just expands and provides different options for the things that already exist in the game. There is no information on what this actually does yet. We can assume Rails to the North, it has something to do with the train track in some ways. But yeah, I'm excited to see what it is. It might be a thing that I don't pick up just because I don't necessarily want anything more complex in Great Western Trail, not because, you know, that's obviously a personal preference of mine, because I play lighter games generally. Mercado is a new game coming out from Cosmos Games, designed by Rudiger Dorn. This is going to be a big box game. The description was kind of weird, and Eric Martin over at BGG News mentioned that it might be in the translation from German to English. I don't know. He didn't fully understand it either. In it, you're collecting different coins, and you're blindly drawing those coins from the bag to purchase goods in a market, but you want the same kind of coins, but they're different. I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But it's Rudiger Dorn, so I'm interested in it. Rudiger Dorn can be kind of hit or miss for me personally. Stuff like Istanbul and Goa, obviously, incredibly good games. Karuba's very highly rated, not a big fan of that. And Montana, that he designed last year, I enjoyed fine, but it kind of didn't do anything special for me, even though it did have a spinner, and I like seeing people try to put spinners in games. So I don't know. I'm interested to try this one out. Way of the Panda is a new game coming out from Simon Games. In it, you take on the roles of pandas, trying to defeat ninja pandas, and you have the roles of monk, warrior, and governor. And governor's kind of weird. Like, I'm not sure how a governor defeats a ninja. I don't know if it's kind of like a ancient Chinese fantasy version of Air Force One or what's going on with that. But so you're trying to defeat these ninjas, and then you're trying to construct buildings. And you use that with, you have like an action selection board that you do worker placement on, and each action you select has to be more powerful than the one you selected before. So it seems like there's some strategy then there, like when you select a powerful action, because you can't jump too far ahead, that kind of stuff. Of course, with Simon Games, it has incredibly good miniatures, really nice little panda miniatures. So I'm looking forward to seeing those painted by people that are way better at painting than I am. This week's Kickstarter is for Countdown Action Edition. This is a hidden role game, which there are a ton of hidden role games, but this one had a couple things that made it a little bit more intriguing for me. First off, the setting, the theme is a lot of fun. It's kind of this like neon pink, washed neon light, 80s kind of action aesthetic, with different roles, like anything from an aerobic instructor to like a hacker, like really like cliche 80s genres. What are they? I don't know. People that we pretend were really popular in the 80s now. I don't know. But the main thing is that you get to choose the role that you play. So you can't choose what team you're on. That's the hidden role part. But you can choose the role that you're playing so that you know, like, you can pick your win condition, basically. So that's pretty interesting, where you're not just getting dealt a villager card if you don't want to be a villager, basically. It's super 80s in everything. There's one of the levels you can pledge it. It comes with a fanny pack to hold the play mat and stuff like that. So I think that's a lot of fun. And it is $25 right now on Kickstarter. So if that sounds interesting to you, go back that. All right, that's the news for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you follow me on social media. I'm at Chris Bryan Games on Instagram and Twitter. And make sure you go check out my Patreon if you like what I do. I do board game news videos just like this every single week to keep you up to date. This week's question comes from Danny and Derek do board games via Twitter. And they ask, do you like playing games more or designing games more? It depends on how you're defining the word like. Like, I have more fun playing games. It creates more immediate enjoyment for me to play games. But designing games is certainly more rewarding, and it's a thing that I kind of have to do. I'll get into it. So playing games, they're both a hobby at this point, so they're both ways I use my free time. Playing games are ways that I relax, and I like to socialize with friends and things like that. And they're more fun. Whereas designing games are more rewarding for me in the long run, but it does feel certainly more like work than playing games. And it's also a thing where it's a creative endeavor, and for my whole life, I've always done some sort of art or creative thing as just kind of a need inside me to create, I guess. And designing games that used to be filmmaking for a long time, and still is to a degree. But as I've gotten older, it's gotten harder and harder to get people to devote their free time to filmmaking as we get married, as we have kids, we have more money concerns, all that kind of stuff. And filmmaking, since it's a highly collaborative thing generally, requiring a lot of people and a lot of money, it's just, I hadn't been able to do that as often. So part of what kind of picked up a thing for me to put those creative juices into was board game design, because it doesn't cost a lot of money. I can do it by myself in a room by myself whenever I want. I can do it an hour here and there, that kind of stuff. So designing games is more creatively rewarding. Now, I wish I could play board games more, and designing games certainly takes up some of the time I would be playing board games otherwise. So I don't know. It's kind of a balancing act. I think I like playing board games more, but there's certainly more levels of kind of reward to designing board games, I guess. So, yeah, great question. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.